to another marketing strategy session. I am talking with Thomas Mitchell of Mitchell Strategies, and we're going to talk about Facebook and Facebook ads. So, Thomas, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, so we're talking Facebook, and that's been always a big topic, when it comes to marketing, because now everybody's really flooding to these Facebook ads. I've noticed that you put away your stack of money. You see, the ads where they put the stack of money on the table. It's like, you want to make this type of money.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Facebook ads. I mean, let's first of all talk about you and your experiences. With marketing, because if you go to mitchellstrategies.co, you're going to see that Thomas' team has a lot of different things, but they really hone in on your brand, making sure your brand and your content for your brand is iron tight. So talk a little bit about you and your company and what you bring to the marketplace.
Yeah, so I'm definitely thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. In 2016, I started Mitchell Strategies really as like a place to sort of bring it under, I call it like just one umbrella of a lot of the freelance work that I was doing. So I was helping a lot of people just on a freelance basis, some friends, some family, really with their digital space, whether it was a website, whether it's graphic design, branding, whether it was digital marketing. And for me, I got really interested in it in 2011, actually, maybe like 5 years before then. I had a tech startup I was really excited about. It was like the sneaker tech startup. I was going to make like a ton of money. I was going to be the next like Jeff Bezos. It's really exciting. So I think I learned a lot. But in that process, one of the biggest things I took away was just the power of leveraging social media. So we were able to be obviously online and leveraging organic social media, but we were at the forefront of it, in terms of like one of the earlier people to trying to leverage organic using social media to grow your brand. And then like in the process of us like raising the business and then like doing away with it, that's when they sort of introduced Facebook ads. And for us, it just was a phenomenal tool to be able to specifically target your audience that really before it you hadn't really seen in any other form of marketing.
Yeah. Facebook, as you look at other platforms like AdWords, they do a good job of targeting, but Facebook throws in that psychological, because they know based on your comments, your likes,
everything.
What you're posting, they know what you really like, your intentions, versus keyword searches, which could mean several different things. So it's very powerful.
And that's crazy, I think that's why you kind of mentioned the two like biggest players in like the paid ad space, and then all these platforms have some sort of paid ads. I know YouTube's owned by Google or whatever, but if you think about the two biggest players, it's normally the AdWords, Google search ads, and then it's of course Facebook ads, and it's traditionally like that for two big reasons. One of which both of those companies, they were first to market, not first, but one of the first to market in a lot of ways in the industry. And they just built a massive platform and then were able to properly mine that platform. But the bread and butter is the platforms that they built. Google's, the #1 search engine, and the #2 one they happen to own, which is YouTube. Facebook being the largest, exactly. So they got #1 and 2 when it comes to search engines. And then Facebook, being the largest, social media platform that's out there, they found a way to properly mine their audience. But also, in terms of even how you use them, Google's more so for intent ads is what they generally say. If I'm on and I'm directly looking for something, then I'm putting in those words and I'm putting those keywords and it's showing me something that I'm saying right now I have the intent to purchase. As opposed to Facebook, they do a really good job of targeting, but those ads are more so focused on trying to convince you to buy something, obviously, like creating an environment, reaching the right people. So they've got their own spaces in this ecosystem, but it's phenomenal to see those two companies kind of truly and utterly just changed the way people did marketing, you know,
Yeah.
that have been doing it for maybe the past 100 or so years and hadn't really
Wow.
changed a lot. And then we're talking 15 years, 10, 15 years in a stretch. And I think, it lies in their ability to target. I mean, that's their bread and butter, man.
And it's changed the way people do business. See,
Yeah.
you know, like you said, 15 plus years back, it was radio and television, and
Yeah.
it was push marketing. It was, I will
Yeah.
throw in your face so many times this commercial till you're going to buy it. And now people have choices. So it's like, I need to get in your head and make it your idea. So I'm going to suggest a lot of times and suggest your friends that word of mouth, they like it too. So because they like it, you should like it. And so it's a different way of marketing now. And that's a great point that you made, because if you're still using that old way of push marketing, then you'll spend a lot of money to get the same type of results. And you might not even get those results.
You might not even get those results. Yeah, and it's crazy you say that, like, and maybe I'm a little biased, but I truthfully, I think there's a lot of space for TV ads, you know what I mean? Just in terms of its ability to reach certain audiences. You can't skip them. So I think TV ads are really important for that in terms of the platform that they're on, and then people's familiarity with it. Like, if they still have a massive audience. But if it's not TV, I truthfully don't understand why you would advertise on any other platform. I mean, unless your audience is just, man, like, I mean, they are just like specific to like newspaper or like a certain magazine. Like, it doesn't make any sense, you know what I mean? Because you're able to get much better. It just never happens in business where you spend less money and you get better results. I mean, there's no more win-win anywhere else in business. You get to do that, where I can target my audience much more closely and making sure that only people that would possibly be interested in what I'm selling will see this ad. You can't say that with any other platform. You just can't. Even TV.
Even TV, because even with TV, you're looking at with the change of how things from linear TV to now this on-demand TV, this always-on TV, that people aren't looking at commercials like they used to. But if you do make a commercial, you have to make it in a way to where they become a part of your tribe. You're pushing them to an experience to where you're following up. It's not the actual commercial itself that sells them. It's getting them into your universe to where now you're consistently in their face, and now they're ready to buy. Because even the way you're doing TV now, I mean, with Netflix and Amazon Video and all these on demand and streaming, people are skipping ads. I mean, they're seeing them a little, they're skipping them, they're like, whatever. But if one catches their attention and you can then pull them into your social experience, then they're like, you know, like the Dollar Shave Club. I mean, their commercials are so funny that you're like, well, I got to see more of that. So you start YouTube, and then you're watching all their commercials, you're laughing, and then all of a sudden it clicks. Wait a minute, that might not be a bad deal. Maybe I should buy one, you know? So it just changed the way, you know, like I said, the old days where it was buy my record, buy my stuff, buy my this, we're the best. You know, those days are over.
They definitely are. And it's crazy you say that. That sort of immersion tactic you mentioned earlier, it's still prevalent. You know, people still do it with digital. It's just, it's much more likely that the people you're immersing in your content and in your ad are people that are actually going to like what you have. And then it's up to me as a marketer and a branding expert, am I reaching them the right way? And then it's my fault. You know what I mean? Because the ball's in my court at that point. You know, we're in front of our audience. We know we're getting in front of our audience. We know our potential customers are seeing us. But I mean, even if you fail, at the very least, it's still helpful to a business owner because you're able to know exactly what part of the process you need to own. You know what I mean? Like, what's your fault? You can't just say, oh, we ran that TV ad and it just didn't go well. It's up to the station's fault. It's the radio's fault. It's your fault. It's like you didn't reach them.
Especially if you put the analytics in place. And that's one thing that I found that a lot of companies fail at. They don't put the analytics in place until after the fact. And then it's like, what happened? But put your analytics in place at first. But that's so key that you pointed that you can literally look into your funnel and see, here's the point to where they're waterfalling. So we need to change this one spot, and we can make our, difference from that point on. Where before, which I remember back in the days, and this is dating me, you can probably see from all that I'm a little old. But, the biggest thing that radio and television and newspapers used to get away with is they would just give you reach. But you couldn't, there was no way that you could actually say this drove this result unless that was the only marketing that you could do. If they would just be like, well, we got you in front of 1 million people,
Oh well. Oh well.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And at least half of those 1 million people could not even in any way, shape, or form like what you're selling, even want what you're selling, like get a product for it. Like if I'm a marketer and I'm selling a product that's specifically for women, you know what I mean? Any other platform besides digital, there's a good chance if I push this item, it's going to go to people who aren't women.
Yep.
And that's wasted money.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's one thing if I can narrow it down and it's just, wasn't the right fit for them. But yeah, that's the interesting part of Facebook.
It changed the game. Now, one thing that you mentioned, you said that once you get them there, if you don't convert them, it's your fault.
Yeah.
I want you to elaborate on that. How important is the actual content that you put out?
It's king. It's king, and it's amazing. I'm glad you were able to pick that up from our site in terms of how much we focus on the branding of it. You know what I mean? I think I'm a firm believer that the two go hand in hand. You know what I mean? Having to have really good strategy. So in that strategy, you're targeting the right way. You're making sure you're meeting them at the right platforms. You know what I mean? So you're going about it the right way. You're approaching it. You're messaging correctly. But at the same time, visually speaking, your content, it has to be really, really good. And I've seen a lot of campaigns, some really big brands, some smaller brands, to put a lot of money behind a campaign. A lot of people will see their content, but it's just not good. You know what I mean? It's not good. It's either not user friendly. You know what I mean? So, and by that, I mean, you're posting about an event and you're missing key information from it. It's kind of misleading what the event is even about. So it's not very user friendly for your audience. Or it's just not designed well. It's just period. It looks dated. It doesn't look good. There's nothing appealing about it necessarily that makes it stick out. You know what I mean? And or there's just like some actual issues with it. So you got like technical issues. You got typos. You got the videos not loaded. You know what I mean? You got the image is pixelated. It's cut off. You know what I mean? Like sort of technical things that are very easy to fix on your end with just due diligence. And all those things really kill that content that you put out because you put so much money behind it. But we're fastly approaching a situation where millennials are beginning to age out, in the next 10 to 15 years of being the young people. You know what I mean? Eventually, we're at that point now. Older millennials in their late 30s, pushing into early 40s. 10 years from now, they're going to be well into their mid to late 50s when it comes to millennials. And 10 to 15 years from now, well into the mid to late 50s. So, you're having a generation. And of course, the people that are behind it, we're so used to well-designed content. Like, gone are the days where you can get away with posting something and being a business and it just doesn't look good. Because we're at a point where all of your we're so used to seeing well-designed things.
Yeah.
There's so many apps and platforms out there that make it easier to have access to designers and so on and so forth. So.
And that's
our generation,
That's really, really important to that what you pointed out. Your competitors now have widened because now you're competing with a 7-year-old that knows how to use an app, and they can make a TikTok video that blows your highly produced commercial out the water, And now it's like, well, how can I compete with these kids that have no production skills? They just know how to use the app. And I'm paying these producers all this money, and we can't beat these 7-year-olds.
Yeah. Or you can't beat their software that comes with a template that I can hire a VA, pay them $40 or $50, and they put together something that 10 years ago, I would have had to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's one thing that I appreciate about social media is it's truly flattened the curve in a lot of ways. And I think that's sort of that other discussion that people don't really talk about a lot. I mean, obviously it's the targeting, it's the ability to reach your audience and so on and so forth, but also it's really eliminated a lot of gatekeepers. And if you think, how are these businesses getting by with like these really limited ways of reaching people? Well, it wasn't just that. I mean, it was the fact that, that was all that was available was TV and radio and ads and magazines, but also the competition was limited. It was harder to start a business. It was harder to let people know about what you do. You know what I mean? Like it just wasn't that easy. So a lot of times you had people and you had a situation where they didn't really deal with competition that much. And then we get a little older and you look at companies like a Toys R Us or Barnes and Nobles or Blockbuster that were caught flat-footed. And by the time they were finally ready to embrace digital the way they should have, it was too late. They should have made that decision years ago. And I know that's boiling it down. I know there's a lot that went into it with those different companies. In some way, the situations are different, but
but they didn't.
A lot of ways
they saw it, but choose to ignore it. I remember I was helping marketing some companies that when Netflix first came about. When they first came about, they were little guys and nobody really paid attention. But all of a sudden, it was like within a year, they became major players. And everybody was trying to figure out how can we get in this digital space. You have these giants that have been leading it for 20 plus years, trying to figure out how this company that came out of nowhere is acquiring all of their audience. And how can we compete with them? But see, that's the thing. If you look at them like fish, big companies are like whales, but these whales move slow. They can't turn on a dime. Then you got sharks. I mean, they're fast, they can turn on a dime, but a lot of times they're in frenzy, so they're all over the place. Then you got dolphins. Well, dolphins usually are a little bit slower than sharks, but they're still fast and they can still turn, and they usually turn in unison. It's like when they turn, it becomes a trend because they all turn and everybody's like, wow, everybody's turned that way. We need to go that way. And so that's where the bigger companies fail. We're just so big, we're massive. But when it came time to turn, because of all the red tape in corporations and so forth, they couldn't make that change. And by the time they finally made the change, it was too late.
Too late, man. It was too late. And I think that those are really good examples. And it shows just how much, a company like Netflix is able to just really take advantage of the head start that they had. You know what I mean? Starting out, it was a lot of other people's content, and they still, obviously, most of their platform comes from licensing out of the content, but they did a good job of using that head start that they had to create their own content and really sort of be forward thinking to a time and place where, wait a minute, if we do too well, which they did, you know what I mean? All these other platforms, like, well, forget it. We just pay somebody to build our own streaming services. That's where this is going. And it's good because they've used that time to really become respectable in the content creation space and not just be a platform. I mean, they started out as a DVD rental service by mail. And they would just keep iterating. And then you think of a sort of a tragic story, which is the exact opposite. You look at a MySpace, which had a head start on a lot of organizations. And they didn't use that head start properly. And somebody faster, somebody better, somebody smarter came along, and I mean, it was quick. It feels like it was a long time. As somebody like myself who was like really into MySpace as a younger person.
I remember those days.
Yeah, I was really into it, but it's just it came along, and then a couple years later, they went from turning down an offer to buy Facebook to being by far and away eclipsed by them in 3 or 4 years.
Was Tom your friend too?
Yeah, he was. He definitely was.
But I mean, and it is interesting how Facebook made that change. I mean, Facebook came with one model, but I call it like the wizard behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz. Their model, and Google as well, their models was so, I guess you would say, opposing. It was, we're just gathering data, we're just providing away information. And then when they turned on the ad engine, they were like, hey, everybody comes here.
It's over with.
Yeah, we got everybody. So you have to play ball the way we want to play ball now. And it was sort of a, hey, we just here to give you information. Tell us what you want. And so they had their user content. Users telling them, hey, we want this. Hey, we want this. We like this. We don't like that. Where bigger companies were so used to, I'm going to tell you what you think. I'm going to tell you what you like. And they didn't see it coming. Like Yahoo. I mean, Yahoo was like, they were the thing.
They were big dog in that space. Really, really big in that space.
Yes.
And they've made attempts to try to stay relevant. At the end of the Tumblr acquisition, they've tried. You know what I mean? I mean, the partnerships with the NFL.
Even with Bing.
With Bing into the market. And Bing's made a little bit of strides recently. I mean, they've gone from just like not even a factor to like kind of a blip on the map at this point. But yeah, I mean, still a lion's share of the search traffic, obviously, more than the lion's share still comes through Google. Obviously.
But I mean, it's kind of amazing how that works. So when it comes to business, I mean, you have to keep your ear to the ground. You have to know what's going on. You have to not assume that this little guy is always going to be the little guy. And especially when it comes back to Facebook ads. When you're talking about advertising on Facebook, a guy with a huge budget can be competed with a guy with a small budget if that guy knows what he's doing, you know, or she's doing. If they really have a good target, have a good product, they know how to speak to their audience better than you do, then they can still compete because they don't need a lot to eat. You know, they're small. They don't need a lot to eat, but they can grow where you have a lot of overhead. And if you're throwing away a lot of money, it really hurts. So talk a little bit about like when you're approaching your Facebook ads, strategy that you keep in mind when you're approaching, you know, and I know each company's different and there's a lot of different factors, but there's some core principles. Talk about that.
We kind of talked about it earlier. So the first biggest one is content. Like, that's number one in terms of what you can start with. So that's probably the biggest thing in terms of not just the design of the ad, but the copy that you use along with the ad is extremely powerful. Probably more so with Facebook ads and a lot of other, you know, when it comes to social media content being posted. So obviously making sure that you're staying within the guidelines. A lot of people have a lot of headaches when it comes to running Facebook ads sometimes because of just not doing proper research on what's allowed and what's not allowed. Or sometimes they'll complain because they see somebody else running an ad that they feel like violates rules, but theirs doesn't. So you really keep your mind on that in terms of obviously being able to stay within the guidelines. But first step is making sure that you've got clean and powerful content, something that's compelling, like something that is moving somebody to action and engagement in some way, shape, form, or fashion. Whether that's pointing to sign up for some lead gen form that you have, or getting them to click a link that sends them to a landing page to assign them as a lead, or whether they're using it to encourage them to purchase from your website. So developing engaging content, and that has to be at the forefront of your mind when you're creating content at all times. Is this pushing somebody to want this right now? And people do it in different ways. Sometimes it's a sale. Sometimes it's, you know, it's something that's time-based. Sometimes it's they use like emotion. It's a lot of different ways you can try to engage somebody or try to push them to make an engagement on what you're doing. But that's obviously really important, is content first. And I think from there, when it comes to building out a Facebook ad in terms of the right strategy to approach, is really doing the proper homework on the audience that you're reaching. And I think that truly helps. I'm a firm believer in sort of like Phil Knight, like 5 Clueless Guys theories, where you find somebody in your niche in a lot of ways that you feel like, man, this is my ideal customer, or this is my client's ideal customer. And you find a few people like them, and then you literally stalk them. Like, I mean, this is like the long way, but it's helpful in the long run, especially if you put on a big campaign. Go to their page and you just look at everything they got going on. You look at their interests, you look at the type of stuff they post, you look at a lot of things, and then you find roundabout ways to target people. Some things you can be a little more direct, obviously in Facebook. Some types of ads have limitations on what you can and can't target within Facebook. But yeah, really being strategic about your audience and knowing them and really getting to know them. Because you can say you know them, but finding ways to know what they like, I think is really important. Looking at the favorite TV shows, looking at the type of cell phones they have, looking at the zip codes they're normally in, and really being able to target your audience that way. So the targeting of it is truly important. And I think probably the next phase, probably the most important, is knowing how to optimize and manage your ads. And that's truthfully why people come to me and people like me to build and run their Facebook ads. Is that's really where you think about somebody who makes a living in managing Facebook ads like I do. It's that. It's paying somebody to manage and optimize. And what that looks like is essentially your A/B testing, for starters. So you're putting 3 different ad sets in the same campaign. One has a different copy, one has a different image, and you're sort of running it to the same targeted audience, but you're using sort of different content to do it. And you're seeing which ad set your audience responds to best. And you're letting that run for a couple days. And after that couple days pass, you're looking at, okay, which one was the most successful? Okay. And then once you find the ones the most successful, you shut down those other ones, and then you take that money that you were putting behind those ads and you put it on the one that was working the most. And that's a type of optimization, but that's something that you can do to begin to optimize the Facebook ads that you run. Now, it's beginning an A/B test and really being able to look at and constantly tinkering and testing. And then, of course, this isn't really a part of the strategy, but I mean, it's something that essentially that you should be doing is that's implementing a Facebook pixel and making sure that you have that implemented on your website. And then making sure that you're seasoning that pixel before you even run Facebook ads. Or, if you, I wouldn't say before, I need to change how I say this. Not necessarily before you run Facebook ads, before you run conversion ads, I'll say that. So what that means obviously is you want that pixel to be smart by the time you're using it to make money. Right? If you're running it.
Dig into that, because a lot of companies don't do that. They go straight for conversion ads instead of doing reach ads, brand awareness ads, traffic ads. So dig into that.
Yeah. So for some people, it's just not cost effective for them to be able to put that money behind it. And there's other ways you can season the pixel. I mean, once the pixel's on your site, it's on the site. And now you can use other avenues to sort of drive traffic to the site. Okay. You just got to make sure that the traffic that you're driving is in your proper audience.
Okay.
So you don't confuse the pixel. For example, if I'm working with a client and they got the pixel installed, they want to begin to season that thing. So maybe you're running, you're posting on YouTube, you're embedding links, you're posting on Facebook organically, your Twitter organically, and you're embedding a link to your website to begin to drive people that you feel like are part of your audience to click through to your website. So you're constantly getting their foot traffic on your pixel. You can run email campaigns with the email list you already have, or you can sort of enlist sort of theme pages. This works a lot better with like product-based businesses. But you can run ads on like theme pages, influencers. You can pay them to sort of repost things or wear your product and tag you. All of those ways are ways to get people to get foot traffic on your site. That's all that's meant for. If you're doing B2B, it's a kind of a trick I use if you're trying to season a pixel. If you're doing B2B, because this could be a Facebook or a LinkedIn pixel. I know we're talking about Facebook today, but season any kind of pixel. If you're doing sort of B2B and you're trying to get leads, if you're doing insurance, real estate, sort of in my creative agency space, you can do this trick I do where I take the Calendly link that I use. I love Calendly, not because they're free, that too, but that's like the way they work. So you can take Calendly and you can take their embed code and you can embed it on a page on your site. So that way, when you send people a link to book a call with you, you can send them to a link from your domain, from your website, and not Calendly. So you're getting that traffic mostly and not Calendly. And you can really do that with anything. You can do that with a YouTube video that you have, and you want to post that YouTube video to Facebook for people to check out. If you got a WordPress site, and you got some, obviously really any site, you know what I mean? You want to embed that code, you can do that to drive that traffic direct. It's all meant to drive traffic to your website. So I know that was a lot, but those are a lot of ways you can begin to season that pixel. And kind of getting back to what you were saying in terms of the importance of that is what you want is you want to be able to use that pixel a part of your Facebook ad strategy. And you want to be able, that Facebook ad, to be able to pull information from your pixel so that it's kind of like AI. Well, it is AI. You know what I mean? So you're teaching your Facebook ad that, wait a minute, I've got a pixel that's been communicating with my audience for a couple months now. It's a lot smarter. It knows my audience better than you do because you're still learning. Even though we put up all the targeting and we did all of that, and my ad guy is optimizing, I'm paying him a ton of money to do that. He's optimizing my ads. Still, your pixel is one of the smartest tools you can use to be able to optimize that. So you've obviously got that to be able to make that smarter and season that pixel. So, but if you've got a little bit of a budget, what you can begin to do is just install that pixel and then just start running ads, but sort of brand awareness ads. So you're looking for likes, you're looking for follows, you know, that's what you're sort of looking for, really vanity metrics. But it's helpful to you because you're trying to get people to click on your website. You're trying to drive that traffic. So you've got that sort of sweet spot with your pixel. So that's a really smart way. I know we didn't necessarily get into this, but another way to sort of help season that pixel and help making your ad smarter is building out lookalike audiences. So if you've got a ton of emails already, you can obviously use those to build out lookalike audiences. And that's just uploading your email addresses onto Facebook as like a saved lookalike audience. And then Facebook takes that data from those emails of people that are on Facebook or that they have in their vast network some way, and then they use that to make your ads smarter.
Okay. Now there's a lot of things I want to pull out. And
I'm talking, man. You got me.
No. You were giving some gold right there. You were giving some gold, and I didn't want to interrupt. And I did. And I'm trying to figure out how should I reverse it, or should I come from the first thing and come back? But
whatever way you want to, man.
I'm gonna reverse it. So we're talking about these pixels. Now, one thing that I've seen companies do, and I want your opinion on it, they buy traffic. So they'll buy traffic to their site, or they'll buy traffic to their Facebook page or some other social site, and they'll buy traffic. And one thing that I've found with buying traffic, when you're doing this, you're giving other data to your pixel. So, you know, what's your take on the buying traffic technique?
I think it's really useful for larger companies that when you get into that level, for one, I would say probably anybody that's listening to this podcast, or this season, this episode, and pretty much the majority of businesses, in my opinion, don't really benefit from that because it's not, to me, it's not a targeted approach to money. You know what I mean? It's not a targeted approach to spending money. I don't necessarily have an issue with it. I think if you got a budget like that and your goal, in a lot of ways with larger organizations, is just reach. You know, they just want to just get as many people as possible. You know what I mean? They want that level of brand awareness. You know what I mean? And for them, they can afford to do that because they can sort of spread. They've got some legacy things in place. Their lights are on for the most part, so they can sort of just get vanity metrics out there and just, you know, making sure everybody knows about them. Majority of businesses can't do that. Even this multi-million-dollar businesses that can't necessarily afford to do that. And what a lot of times what people do, also when it's effective, when you're sort of buying reach, is a lot of times they'll do it as a way to be able to be able to use those metrics and that vanity as a way to then market that. So, you know, they tell other people how much traction this has got, you know, so then they'll use those metrics as a way to leverage to something else. And that's what it's always used as. And that's the only time it's a good idea to do that. If you got some, enormous budget in the millions and you're using that vanity to then leverage it to something else, to tell somebody else, look what we got here, look at how much traffic this guy here, look how much downloads this person got. That's the only time it's useful.
Yeah, people follow winners, and so it's like, exactly, the fake it till you make it type thing.
Exactly, it's the same ideology behind people who, I mean, I don't ever suggest this, but the same ideology behind people who purchase followers. What they're doing is just a legal way of doing it by the platform. And the platforms don't care because they're spending money on their platform. They don't care how much reach they bought. Like, they're spending money, so they love it. They love power buyers like them. But, the average Joe Schmo who's really, really and truly doing the exact same thing, they're just really doing it in a way that the platform does not condone, where they buy followers, they'll buy views, they'll buy clicks, likes, whatever. Their algorithms are smart enough to recognize that now. So it's really hard for people to get away with that. Also, even if they couldn't get away with it, in the long run, consumers have gotten smarter. So it's a lot easier to spot when somebody lied about their reach or their engagement. It only takes sort of a tacit, like, just kind of look through to realize that that's not genuine. You know what I mean? What the reach that they have, the engagement they have.
Yeah. So that's a great point. And also when you're looking at your analytics on the back end, it kind of messes the numbers up to say, well, we really had this amount, because now when you're talking about conversion ratios, the traffic numbers are huge, your conversions aren't. That doesn't look good, but
it'll show up.
When you take out, majority of that was bought traffic, they really weren't interested, then the numbers will be more accurate, but doesn't look as good. So, that I just wanted that tape because that's always something that comes up, because to be honest, you're right. A lot of the major players do buy traffic. I mean, it's one of those things where it's frowned upon, but it's still done. And a lot of major players do it. It's just how can you do it smart, where it doesn't mess you up. So,
it's funny you say that because I used to work for an organization and they had did this like right before they had like started the process and like paid. It's a very well-known firm that they work with, very well-known PR firm that they work with, and they had paid them about $30,000 or so to do exactly what you're saying. They had a white paper they were putting out. And the firm showed them all these emails that they used to make the ad smarter, and it showed them, how many people saw their ad. And this is on Twitter and not Facebook, but they had like showed, how many people saw the ad. I'm on the digital, well, I was the only digital person on the team. So I'm like on the back end, on the other side of it, on the client side. So I'm looking at the website, I'm going through the Google Analytics every day. I'm going through the social media clicks every day. Like, I'm literally seeing it like, this isn't converting. Like, nobody's downloading this white paper. Nobody's looking at this content. And they had spent $30-something thousand with this firm to sort of get this done. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking like, man, this was a huge waste of money. I mean, it was a massive waste of money. For two reasons. And two reasons we've already covered in this conversation. One of which, the content just wasn't good. The white paper was designed okay, but the landing page they had it on was terrible. Optimization was horrible. So that killed it. And then also, they weren't using it to leverage it to something else, like I said. Like, there wasn't, this organization I was working with, they didn't know anything about digital. I mean, they were really new to it. They didn't really leverage it well. So they had no idea of a concept that we're discussing of, okay, we're going to get a bunch of numbers on this piece of content, and then we're going to somehow leverage our reporting from how many people we reached to use this to inflate something else. They didn't get that concept. They didn't have that in place at all. It was literally, we paid somebody thousands of dollars to get a bunch of people to view. We bought traffic. It's exactly what you said. And they were sort of like a cautionary tale of spending literally some people's salary in a year for nothing, and they got nothing from it. They probably got like, it's sad, I promise you, they probably got maybe 30 conversions of people who actually downloaded.
But the person in the board meeting that was presenting it got a pat on the back, like, yeah, man, you got all this traffic.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. They didn't know any better. They didn't know any better.
And then here's the other thing that can happen is if the algorithms catch you and then put a ban or a shadow ban on your account. And that goes back to the first thing I was going to ask you about as far as the knowing the guidelines, knowing how to get around the guidelines. I've noticed with Facebook lately, they've been putting some bans on people for the least little things lately. I mean, it's like, and here's the thing, it's their house. It's their house. Yeah. So they do what you want. They don't have to explain.
You got to take your shoes off, man. You got to take your shoes off.
It's like, you know, and it's like, what did I do? We don't have to tell you what you did.
Nope.
You know what you
Maybe.
did.
You might get an explanation. You might get an explanation. And it's so crazy you said that. Like, so the example I was talking about, that was like legal, of course. Like they paid somebody, they ran the ad, but it was just like vanity metrics. It was just like get people to look at it, just for views and impressions. What you're talking about when it comes to Facebook ads, I mean, Facebook's notorious for just canceling ad accounts for what seems like no reason. Like sometimes it's kind of obvious why somebody got their ad account blocked. Other times it really is no rhyme or reason. It just, you know, I don't know. Maybe something was triggered, something happened.
I've had my account suspended, and it was hilarious. Actually, I'm gonna do a post on it. Wow. And I had my account suspended. I wasn't even advertising. I hadn't even advertised for like 3 months.
Wow.
And they were like, violation of policy. What policy? I'm not advertising. You know, what are you talking about? You know? Yeah. And then finally they came back and was like, well, we're sorry. There's some things that was, you know, messed up. We reactivated your account. And I'm like, you didn't do me any favors. I was just about to start some ads because I was building this community and it wasn't ready yet. And it was finally ready. And I was about to start doing some ads. All of a sudden I start getting these notifications that I'm getting suspended. I'm banned. And I'm like, I haven't even started advertising. And that's how it can go. I mean, it really, all of a sudden, you locked out the game. So I'm not saying tiptoe around them. Yeah. You know, you got to do what you have to do for your business, but you have to have those contingency plans. Move them from one stage to another stage. That if, let's say, Facebook bans you, you still have their email address. You can still operate. You know,
exactly. I preach email ownership as much as humanly possible. Yeah. Like, if you want to run, you know, ads to get people, and that's probably the smartest way to season a pixel, is, man, embed you a form somewhere on your website to collect emails and run that ad to that form. So that way you kill two birds with one stone. You get an email and you get your pixel seasoning in the process of seasoning your pixel. But I mean, I've seen people, man, like in the middle of a campaign, making a ton of money for them or a client. Yeah. I mean, I know it's unfortunate. I'm glad it happened before you had put your credit card information in and you were really ready to go. I mean, it's no good time for that to happen, but I can guarantee you it's a worse time for that to happen. And that's like, you know, money's already rolling in. You're reaching out to people. You seeing the little scale graph go up and up and up, and then you get the worst email possible one morning. But yeah, that's the main reason why I preach email ownership as much as possible, because you can do that. You can turn right around the next day and say, okay, fine, we can try to get this thing back going. We can try to build our list up again. But for people that, I mean, it's a pay-for-play environment. So for people that are doing things that they know aren't allowed on the platform, you know, I can say as early as maybe 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you can get away with that for the most part. There were ways to sort of evade the police, you know what I mean, on Facebook. Those days are just, I mean, they'll come out with a new way. They always come out with a new way, right? But some of the bots people were using to sort of automate their engagement, people obviously purchasing likes and followers, they found ways to deal with that a lot. I mean, they had like a big purge a couple years ago where you saw celebrities like lose like 80% of their followers in some cases.
I was seeing that. The numbers were crazy. They were like, oh, well, this person has 120 million followers, but 64 million of them are fake. You know, it's like, wow.
But that's the thing about social proof is you just got to get close.
Yeah.
And brands know that. You know what I mean? So before you can get caught really easy, brands know that. They know, honestly, to a consumer, 1 million followers and 4 million followers it's a lie, but it's like most good lies, it's got a little bit of truth mixed in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've grown to 1 million followers, but I may not be like 4 million worth,
Yeah.
right? But so for consumers, it's a big swing, but it's not like a massive swing. But when it comes to brands and how much money that influencer can make, it's huge. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's huge, the difference between 100,000 followers and 400,000. For them, it almost makes sense to at least try it. I mean, try to buy some followers, but I wouldn't suggest it now. I get why people did it in the past. I get it. It's kind of like the whole sort of steroids debate when people would kind of like take
Yeah.
steroids knowing they would probably get caught, but it's sick. But it was like, I remember them talking about
I'm in the
Ryan
Hall of
Braun.
Fame already. So it's like,
You know what I mean? But it's almost an investment. You know what I mean? Think about it. If I take steroids, and I know there's a good chance that you probably catching me, by the time you catch me, I've already gotten this massive contract that way more than what I probably would have gotten if I didn't take steroids.
yeah.
So I'll take the hit. You know what I mean? You suspend me 180 games, 50 games, 80 games, whatever it is in baseball. I'll take that hit. But man, what I earned from those numbers and this new contract, it by far and away makes up.
Oh yeah.
And especially once you get to a point where I don't say we normalized it, but the way people hated and disdained it, like, you know, in the Jose Canseco, Mark McGwire days, and the way they disdained it now is different. And they still hate it. You know, they still put an asterisk on your stuff, but it's not. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, you know, we dirty birds down here, us Falcon fans, can't stand the Patriots. And we always talk about how they cheat. But the fact is, those rings don't go anywhere. Those rings are still in their trophy case. And yeah, they bend the rules, but they still got the Super Bowls. They still won. And, you know, those that bought it back then, they bought traffic. They won in some senses. Some lost. But the ones that won, it was like, well, okay, well, you won't be able to do it now, but it worked for them then.
Yeah, I would never suggest doing it now. Like anyway, whether you're buying followers, likes, comments, views, no matter what platform it is, they've all gotten smart. They will shadow ban you, they will delete you, they will kill your traffic and engagement. And that's the sick part. Like they'll let you stick around, but they just be like, cool, we won't show your content to anybody. So
and that's shadow banning. And for those that don't know what shadow banning is, that's what it is. They keep your account going. You can still post. You still think you're doing stuff.
Have fun.
To anybody. You know? So
it's the worst. And they'll never admit to shadow banning, or just like how internet providers never really admitted to throttling your services. You know what I mean? Like, it's something they do.
And it's messed up because since you're still buying, you don't know if they shadow banned you or not because you don't know what was bought and what wasn't bought. So you're kind of just spending money now. So, you know, if you're doing that, be very, very safe and strategic, but it has its moments.
It does.
But that really brings to the next part where you talked about knowing your audience and getting in front of your audience with the stories that they really want to hear. So many times I preach that, knowing your audience, and you are not your customer. You are not your client, because a lot of times you know a lot more about your product than they do. And you're coming from a vantage point where, oh, this makes sense to me. But most of the time you're not your client or your customer. So knowing that audience before you start spending a lot of money on ads and saying, okay, like you said, it may take some time, but troll your audience. You know, look and see, what do they talk about? What do they complain about? You know, what needs do they have? What do they praise? Knowing that, it will take you so much further in the long run with your ads versus we're just going to throw out a bunch of money based on demographics. Every male this age likes this product, you know.
And it's too many. And that it kind of, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I wanted to say this earlier. In terms of knowing your audience, that's why for me, when I'm working with like clients or like talking to somebody about doing paid advertising, I almost never suggest, I don't ever suggest doing like boosted ad campaigns, In my opinion, when you boosting a post on Instagram, you're boosting a post on Facebook, that is specifically for people who don't know ads management at all. And it's really just there to take advantage of people who don't know how to do Facebook ads, honestly. Yeah. I mean, perfectly honest with you. It's a dumbed down version of running a Facebook ad. And it doesn't give you the full capabilities of targeting. And it costs the same amount as opening up Ads Manager and starting an ad from there. The problem is Ads Manager is a whole lot more complicated than boosting a post. So that's why they created it. And they make a lot of money from it. Because people say, okay, cool, I don't want to learn Facebook ads. This boost and post thing, it's easy. I kind of click a couple buttons, I slide this little thing over. It's very user-friendly. You know what I mean? Upload my little post, they approve it, I'm done. I go
and
on
they nickel and dime you to death. Because that little $10 here, $10 there.
You can make so much more money just targeting your audience, going to Facebook Ads Manager. But for some people, I'll say this, for some people, they don't have the money to do that. So they say, cool, I'll just boost my own post. I'll figure this out and I'll boost my own post. And they'll say, because they may not have the money to pay somebody $2,000-$3,000 to sort of manage and run their Facebook ads. So they'll say, okay, fine. And I'll just boost the post and do it myself. So I get that to an extent, but I feel like even in that, you're much better off learning basics on like YouTube and doing it that way. Like to be just learning Facebook ads on YouTube a little bit and then just figuring out that way than boosting a post. I think even that's better. I know it may take a little time, but it's never a need to begin to boost posts, speaking to what you were saying, because you're just not able to target that audience like you want to.
Because once you get your audience set, unless you have content that's just totally different than the content you usually post,
you rinse and repeat.
Yeah, you can just run it in the same campaign. Just run it in the same ad set, just add a new ad based on that particular post.
Yeah, and that's why some real estate agents not real estate agents, but like Facebook, like digital guys who like they'll work specifically with real estate agents. They'll work specifically with law firms because they've got that secret potion. They got a couple saved audiences. They just get you in place. They do their same routine of setting you up, dropping that audience.
Yeah,
ooh, you're done.
Yeah,
your leads just flowing in because they've mastered that space and how to get leads in that space.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. But I mean, it really all goes back to knowing your audience and knowing what they like, and then presenting it in a way that they want to engage with it. And you know, one thing was told, I can't remember who told it to me, so I apologize that I don't remember the name. They say social media is meant to be social, and you know, when you're doing these ads, make it something that's engaged, you know, versus just X amount of dollars, you know, buy this for, you know, there's still ads. And if you understand your audience on the social platform, most of the time they're not looking to be sold. They want to engage.
They're not.
You know?
They're not. Yeah. And that's the difference between running Google ads and Facebook ads. So like Google ads, they're looking to be sold. It's intent. They're looking for, if I'm searching fishing rods, you know what I mean? Here's my ad for a fishing rod. Here you go. Buy right now. As opposed to Facebook ads, I'm gonna have to show you some lifestyle content. I maybe have to show you a picture of somebody using the fishing pole just to
holding up a big ass or something. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is what because I'm preaching a lifestyle to you. I'm preaching different, and I can do that, or I have to do that with Facebook ads as opposed to Google, because it's a different platform. It's all about intent. It's a little different in terms of approach.
Yeah, and that is so important to understand that these platforms are different. You can't approach one like you approach the other because they are different. And even with Google owning YouTube, that's different. Facebook owning Instagram, that's different. You know, they do not operate the same way. So understanding at least the basics of how they operate when you're looking at putting your campaigns together, and for y'all out there listening, understanding the difference of your business, because if you're a business, and I'm talking about a business as far as like multiple employees, so forth and so on, versus an entrepreneur that may be a solopreneur, it's a different approach. You know, if you're a major corporation or a medium-sized business or enterprise business, it's a different approach than a small business. So understanding the lanes that you're in, because a lot of times when I'm working with different clients, they don't understand the lanes they're in. They're trying to either be like an enterprise, and I'm like, you can't compete with the enterprise. They have different things. Yeah, they have resources that you don't have, or they're in my education space. I'm talking to a business and they're telling me about courses, but these courses were built for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. And that's why I joked at the beginning of this show with you didn't take the money and put it on the table. As a business, that should turn you completely off.
I hate those.
Because it's like, as a business, that is not how it works. You don't have stacks of money that you just put on the table and these are the techniques. Now, can some of those techniques work for your business? They can, but you're a business. This is not a person selling a product. And if you're selling like an information, information is a product, if you're that and a solopreneur, then yeah, that's their audience. That's who they're targeting. But if you're trying to take those techniques as a business and run it within your organization, you're mixing the message and your audience will get confused.
Yeah, it's easy to get that confusion and to think that you can just apply that across a lot of different platforms. And I think my first foray in the business, I think I made that mistake a lot, looking at major players.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to learn from them. Like if I start an e-commerce business tomorrow, there's a lot for me to learn from Amazon, how they do things. And I'm really learning more so from the why than the how or the what. It's not why they do things. Why do you do it this way? Because whatever they do when it comes to the how and the what, I've got to scale that back. I can't do the how and the what because I don't have the infrastructure, I don't have the money, I don't have the brand awareness to approach it like how they approach it. Now, the why, I can understand the why. Okay, they set things up this way because cool. Yeah. And how can I scale that all the way down to my little Shopify store? I just started last week. You know what I mean? And being able to focus on that. But you get people, just like you said, who have these outside perceptions of their corporation and their organization, and they try to be McDonald's on day one.
Yeah.
To be Amazon on day one. And it's from a marketing perspective, that's always going to hurt you because you're going to come to the market, you're going to present your product in a very arrogant way, like you have that brand awareness. Every business owner thinks that the first week, everybody's going to love it. Everybody's going to buy it. You know what I mean? It sells itself. One of the greatest lies ever told when it comes to business is it sells itself. So, and people believe that, and I think that's,
And I call it chasing Amazon. And what a lot of companies don't realize is by the time you're trying to master a technique that you've seen, let's say Amazon do, they've already moved past that. That's something they were doing 4 or 5 years ago.
Already.
They have something new coming out that you don't even know about, and you're chasing old things that have passed. And that's the problem. And I've even seen major companies do this, large companies chasing, I've consulted with some large companies that were chasing Amazon. And I'm like, but Amazon has changed the way they're doing things. We're chasing the old Amazon. And so you get caught up into that and you don't realize that though their audience may be similar to yours, the audience don't look at you the same way they look at an Amazon. Plus, there's little secrets that you don't know. Like, for instance, with Facebook ads. And I know, Thomas, you'll laugh at this, but you spend enough money, you don't even have to create your own ads. Facebook will give you people that create ads. And you don't have to worry about getting approved because
they created
it. But you got to spend enough money. So you can't compete with an Amazon that's spending millions of dollars with them, and you're spending a couple thousand and think you're going to have the same, same benefits that an Amazon's going to have. You're not. So.
Yeah, if you got it targeted the right way, you got a pretty good product. It don't have to be great. It can be a decent product, and you can get a really good return on investment in terms of what you put into it and what you get out of it. That you're just not going to get out of other forms of marketing. I've tried it. You're not going to get this same return out of it that you get out of other things.
Yeah, and it grows. Well, Thomas has given us a lot of information today. So what I want you to do is take this all in and apply it. But if you need help, there's teams out there like mitchellstrategies.co that you can actually reach out to, and you can get the help you need. Because it's not about being the know-it-all of all things. It's about knowing enough to know what you need and finding people that do it very well to do it. That's really the secret to success. It's not about I can do it all myself. It's knowing what you need to do, knowing enough to know what good looks like, and then put people in place that's what they do all day, every day.
Yeah.
Because in marketing, it all changes day to day. I mean, it changes so quickly nowadays.
It does. It truly does.
Cool. Thanks again for coming on, Thomas. And
thank you, man.
It's been great. We're gonna have to keep doing this, keep in touch, and keep talking about this marketing thing as it changes. And I appreciate all the information you passed on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.